Strange, is it not, that of the myriads who before us passed the door of darkness through, not one returned to tell us of the road that to discover we must travel too. The revelations of the devout and learned who rose before us and as prophets burned are all but stories which awoke from sleep. They told their fellows and to sleep returned. For if the soul can shake the dust aside and naked on the air of heaven ride, is it not a shame? Is it not a shame for him so long in this clay suburb to abide? For it is but a tent wherein may rest a sultan to the realm of death addressed. The sultan rises, the dark farash strikes, and prepares it for another guest. Oh, I sent my soul through the invisible, some letter of the afterlife to spell. And after many days my soul returned and said, behold, myself am heaven and am hell. Heaven but the vision of fulfilled desire, and hell the shadow of a soul on fire, cast from the darkness onto which ourselves so late emerged from, and shall so soon expire. Then while the rose that blows along the river's brink, come with old Khayyam and ruby vintage drink, and when the angel with his darker draught draws near, take that and do not shrink. Fear not, lest existence closing your account should lose or know your type no more. The eternal sake from the bowl has poured millions of bubbles like us, and will pour. When you and I behind the veil have passed, oh, but the long, long while the world shall last, which of our comings and departures heeds as much as ocean of a pebble cast. For it is all a checkerboard of nights and days, where destiny with men for pieces plays. Hither and thither with strikes and mates and slays, and one by one back in the closet lays. The ball no question makes of eyes or nose. As right or left as strikes the player goes. And he that threw thee down to the field, he knows about it all. He knows. He knows. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. Nor all your piety nor wit can lure it back to change a half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. Then let doctor and philosopher preach of what they will or will not. Each is but a link in an eternal chain, which none can break, nor slip, nor overreach. And this inverted bowl we call the sky, whereunder, cooped, crawling, we live and die. Lift not your hands to it for help, for it rolls impotently on, as thou or I. And with earth's first clay, they did the last man knead. And then with the last harvest they sowed the seed. Yea, the first morning of creation wrote what the last dawn of reckoning shall read. Yesterday, this day's madness did prepare. Tomorrow's silence, triumph, or despair. Drink, for ye know not whence ye came, nor why. Drink, for ye know not why ye go, nor where. And I'll tell you this, that starting from the goal, over the shoulder of the flaming foal of heaven, Parwan and Mushtari they flung, into my predestined plot of dust and soul. The vine has struck a fibre, which about it clings my being. Let the dervish flout, and from my base metal may be filed the key that shall unlock the door that he howls without. And this I know, that whether the one true light kindle from love or wrath consume me quite, one glimpse of it within the tavern caught, better than in the temple lost outright. What, out of senseless nothing to provoke, a conscious something to resent the yoke of unpermitted pleasure under pain of everlasting penalties if broke? What, from his helpless creatures to be repaid, pure gold for what he lent us dross allayed, sue for a debt we never did contract, nor cannot answer, oh the sorry trade. Nay, but for the terror of his wrathful face, I swear I will not call injustice grace. Not one good fellow of the tavern but would kick so poor a creature from the place. O thou who did with pitfall and with gin beset the road that I was to wander in, thou wilt not with predestined evil all round enmesh me or impute my fault to sin. O thou who man of basest earth did make, and who with Eden did devise the snake, with all the sins wherewith the face of man is blackened, man's forgiveness give and take. But listen again. One evening, near the close of Ramazan, ere the better moon arose, in that old potter's shop I stood alone, with a clay population all round in rows. And strange to tell, amongst that earthen lot, some could articulate, while others not. And suddenly one more impatient cried, "Who is the potter, pray, and who the pot?" And then said another, "Why, surely not in vain. My substance from the common earth was taken. Would he that subtly wrought me into shape stamp me back to common earth again?" And then said another, "Why, never a peevish boy would break the bowl from which he drank with joy. Would he that wrought the vessel in pure love and fancy in an after rage destroy?" None answered this, but after silence spake a vessel of a more ungainly make. They sneer at me for leaning all awry. What, did the hand of the potter shake? And then said another, "Why, there are those who tell of one who threatens to toss to hell those luckless pots he marred in making. Nay, he's a good fellow, and 'twill all be well." And then said another with a long-drawn sigh, "Alas, my clay with long oblivion has gone dry. But fill me with that old familiar juice, ha ha! Methinks I might recover by and by." And while the vessels one by one were speaking, that little moon peeked in that all were seeking, and then they jogged each other, "Brother, brother, now for the porter's shoulder knot a-creaking." Then with the grape my fading life provide, and wash my body when the life within has died, and in a winding sheet of vine leaf wrap so bury me by some sweet garden side, so that even my buried ashes such a snare of perfume shall fling up into the air, as not a true believer passing by, but would be overtaken unaware. Indeed, the idols that I have loved for so long have done my credit in men's eyes much wrong, have drowned my honor in a shallow cup, and sold my reputation for a song. Indeed, indeed, repentance ought before I swore, but was I sober when I swore? And then And then came spring, with rose in hand, and my threadbare penitence a pieces tore. As much as wine has played the infidel and robbed me of my coat of honor, well, I often wonder what the vintners buy, one half so precious as the goods they sell. Alas, that spring should vanish with a rose, and youth's sweet-scented manuscript should close. That nightingale that within the branches sang, ah, whence and whither flown again, who knows? Would that the desert of the fountain yield one glimpse, if dimly, yet indeed revealed, to which a fainting traveler might spring, as springs the trampled herbage of the field. Ah, love, could thou and I with fate conspire to grasp this sorry scheme of things entire, would we not shatter it to bits and then remold it nearer to the heart's desire? Moon of my delight, which knowest no wane, the moon of heaven is rising once again. How oft hereafter shall she look throughout this same garden for us, but in vain. And when at last, O Saki, you shall pass amongst the guests, stars scattered on the grass, and in your joyous errand reach the spot where I made one, turn down an empty glass. And when at last I mingle into clay, knead it with wine, and mold a cup, and say, this is Omar, bard of love and truth. He lived with zest and died without dismay.